Welcome to Kuwaiti Dinar Analysts, the channel where we explain currency strength, oil economies, and financial risk with facts, not fear. The Kuwaiti dinar is often called the strongest currency in the world. It's stable, valuable, and trusted. But no currency, no matter how strong, is immune to pressure. Today, we are not predicting collapse. We are not spreading fear. We are doing something far more important: identifying the real risks that rarely make headlines. These are the biggest threats to the Kuwaiti dinar. Nobody talks about, not rumors, not speculation, but structural challenges that every strong currency must manage. Let's start with why talking about threats even matters. Strong currencies often fail when people stop questioning them. History shows us that confidence without discipline leads to erosion. Ignoring risk is a direct invitation to instability. Kuwait's strength today comes from a history of awareness, planning, and caution. So, understanding these threats doesn't weaken confidence in the dinar. It actually protects it by promoting a more realistic and prepared mindset. It's about being vigilant, not worried. Now, let's look at the first major challenge: the long-term shift in oil demand. There's no denying it, oil still dominates Kuwait's revenue. It's the engine of the economy. But global energy trends are changing, and they're changing faster than ever. We're seeing a massive rise in electric vehicles, huge investments in renewable energy like solar and wind, and global policies aimed at carbon reduction. This isn't an immediate danger that will hit tomorrow. It's a long-term structural challenge that builds over years. But if global oil demand slowly but steadily declines, what happens? Fiscal pressure on the government increases. The budget has less flexibility. The need to dip into the country's massive reserves becomes more frequent. The dinar itself is well protected today, but finding new sources of revenue for the future becomes an essential mission. This is exactly why economic diversification matters more than just high oil prices in the short term. The next major pressure point is government spending. Kuwait provides a high standard of living for its citizens, with generous subsidies, widespread public sector employment, and comprehensive social benefits. These policies are the bedrock of social stability, but they also create significant long-term financial obligations. The risk here is simple mathematics. If spending grows faster than income, deficits increase. The reliance on investment income from reserves grows, and maintaining fiscal discipline becomes much harder. Let me be clear: currencies don't weaken because a country is generous to its people. They weaken when financial commitments become uncontrolled and unsustainable. So far, Kuwait has managed this balance very carefully. But the pressure from rising spending is constant, and it never disappears. Next, we need to talk about something that is rarely linked to currency strength: population dynamics and the labor structure. Kuwait's demographic makeup presents some unique challenges. There's a heavy reliance on expatriate labor to fill many jobs, especially in the private sector. At the same time, there's a strong preference among Kuwaiti nationals for employment in the public sector. This has led to limited productivity growth in the private, non-oil parts of the economy. So why does this matter for the dinar? Because a strong currency ultimately needs a strong, productive economy behind it. It needs competitive sectors that can generate revenue outside of oil, and it needs sustainable employment models. If productivity doesn't rise and economic diversification slows, the economy remains heavily dependent on a single source of income. This is a silent risk rarely discussed in currency analysis, but very real. Even the strongest currencies can't isolate themselves from global financial shocks. Think about major events like global recessions, international banking crises, geopolitical tensions in the region, or rapid, unexpected shifts in global interest rates. Kuwait's system of pegging the dinar to a basket of currencies is designed to absorb these kinds of shocks and provide stability. It's a very effective defense. However, extreme global events can test any system. The danger isn't a sudden collapse. The danger is a prolonged period of global instability that slowly but surely drains the financial buffers and reserves built up over decades. In a world this interconnected, preparedness matters far more than trying to predict the next crisis. It's about having the resilience to withstand a storm you can't see coming. Another subtle threat is the risk of political and policy delays. The strength of any currency relies on timely, decisive, and effective decision-making. If there are delays in implementing crucial fiscal reforms, passing economic legislation, or pushing forward with structural diversification plans, it can gradually reduce the country's financial flexibility. Financial markets value consistency, predictability, and a clear long-term direction. Uncertainty doesn't cause currencies to crash overnight. Instead, it slowly weakens confidence over time. When investors and institutions feel that a country is slow to adapt to changing realities, they begin to look elsewhere. Strong leadership and a clear vision are just as important as financial reserves. This brings us to the final hidden threat, the one nobody likes to discuss: overconfidence. When a currency has been as strong as the Kuwaiti dinar for decades, risk can feel distant. The need for reform can feel less urgent. The discipline that built that strength can feel permanent and guaranteed. But history is filled with examples of how complacency can destroy what a crisis cannot. The greatest successes can breed the greatest vulnerabilities if they lead to a belief that strength is automatic. Kuwait's success has come from its caution, not from assuming that its strength is guaranteed forever. So after discussing all these threats, why does the Kuwaiti dinar still hold so strong? Because despite the risks, its defenses are formidable. We're talking about massive financial reserves, some of the largest in the world per capita. There's a conservative and cautious monetary policy managed by the central bank. The country earns significant income from its sovereign wealth fund investments, providing a buffer completely separate from oil. And the currency itself is managed in a controlled, disciplined way. These are not myths. They are measurable, powerful advantages. The threats are real, but so are the defenses. Here's the final verdict. The biggest threats to the Kuwaiti dinar are not sudden crashes or wild speculation. They are the slow, quiet challenges, long-term structural changes, the constant pressure on spending, and the ongoing need for policy discipline. Currencies don't usually fail loudly. They weaken quietly over years unless they are actively protected. And so far, Kuwait has consistently chosen protection. If you value honest, fact-based financial analysis that goes beyond the headlines, make sure to subscribe to Kuwaiti Dinar Analysts. Strong currencies survive because their risks are understood, not ignored. Thanks for watching.